Previously on X-Men.
Professor X, your secrets are about to be revealed.
Comic books are full of exciting action and larger-than-life superheroes. From the birth of Superman to the ever-growing popularity of superhero movies, comic books have been around for a very long time. However, many people view this form of literature to be just full of mindless action. Although this may be true for some comics in this medium, there is an exception to this: the X-Men. In this long-running comic book series, many real-life issues have been discussed that show that comic books have substance.
So, who are the X-Men?
Well, the X-Men are a group of mutants that fight for peace and equality. This group of superheroes is led by Professor Charles Xavier, or Professor X for short.
So what are these mutants then?
That's actually a great question. Mutants are a subspecies of Homo sapien, known as Homo superior. This subspecies of humans usually gain their superpowers from a hereditary trait known as the X gene. In fact, the X-Men got their name from this trait. Anyway, let's move on to a serious topic that the X-Men covers: racism. Most fans of the X-Men have often compared Professor X to Martin Luther King Jr. and Magneto, the recurring villain of the X-Men, to Malcolm X. But why?
To nail the basics in the ground, Professor X and Magneto both strive for the same cause, to have their kind be accepted by the community. However, they do it in drastically different ways.
The same thing applies to Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X, two civil rights activists in the 1960s who wanted to end racism in the States. Now here's the part where they differ. Magneto and Malcolm X both used violent ways to show that the minorities had power. For example, Magneto killed many people, including government officials, and Malcolm X robbed rich, white families. In contrast, Professor X and the King are shown as people who advocate their causes in a positive manner. For instance, Martin Luther King Jr. organized nonviolent protests that valued individuality, freedom, and courage, while Professor X tries to show that the X-Men benefit society by taking out villainous foes like Magneto and Apocalypse. In addition to Magneto, another group of villainous people called the Purifiers threaten the X-Men and mutants in general.
The Purifiers, led by Reverend William Stryker, are a group of Christian fundamentalists that want to eradicate the mutant race because they think the mutants are spawn of the devil. Members refer to them as muties. This treatment of mutants can be connected to the behavior towards minorities in the 1960s.
In the 1960s, minorities were ridiculed by people just because they had a different skin color, and as stated before, this is similar to how mutants were treated. Now, let's divert our attention to another social issue that the X-Men comics cover: anti-Semitism.
By now, you should know who Magneto is, but if you're having trouble, I'll spell it out for you. Basically, he's a guy with superpowers that can control magnetic fields. But where did he come from? Well, it turns out Magneto is a Holocaust survivor. He views the mutant struggle as something that is similar to how the Jews were treated by the Nazis in the 1940s. This is even shown when he says
never again
in the comics, movies, and animated TV shows. In addition, Magneto even says that he has a concentration camp tattoo on his arm.
That's why he created the Brotherhood of Mutants, a group of supervillains that fight for mutant supremacy over humans. This is done to protect the mutants, even if that means going to extreme levels. In addition, he is even subjected to monstrous experiments by the Nazis in an alternate timeline. Creepy.
So, there's that. Racism and anti-Semitism. And trust me, there's a lot more social issues in this comic book series that you can count on your fingers and toes. And it was always supposed to be this way. Stan Lee, the co-writer of the X-Men and other famous Marvel story arcs, once said the underlying principle of the X-Men was trying to be an anti-bigotry story.
Social issues plague this world. It may not be in your area, but racism and other problems still linger. In conclusion, the X-Men comics show that comic books aren't just full of mindless violence. Comic books have the ability to shed light on issues that have affected this world.
But hey, that's just a theory.
A discounted game theory.
But, you know, these are more like facts now. You know what, forget it. Thanks for watching. Well guys, thanks for watching. A big shout out to VideoScribe for helping me animate this video. Without it, this video would suck.